Right now, imagine your boss reads your private messages out loud in a meeting. Well, within seconds, your face turns red. You didn't choose this, you can't stop it. And here's the strange part. Blushing might be the only human expression that's physically impossible to fake convincingly, which makes it one of evolution's strangest inventions. Let's start with the mechanics. When you feel embarrassed, your brain's amygdala, the region that processes emotional threat, triggers a release of adrenaline. That adrenaline causes tiny blood vessels called capillaries, specifically the ones in your face, to dilate, widening rapidly and flooding with extra blood. Your face has more of these blood vessels closer to the surface than almost anywhere else on your body, which is exactly why blushing shows up there first and most visibly. Here's what makes this genuinely strange. Charles Darwin himself was fascinated by blushing, calling it, in 1872, quote, the most peculiar and most human of all expressions. And he was onto something important. As far as scientists can tell, humans are the only species on Earth that blushes. Not chimpanzees, not gorillas, not any of our closest evolutionary relatives. Just us. So, why would evolution build a reflex that literally broadcasts your embarrassment to everyone around you? At first glance, that seems like a design flaw. If you've done something socially wrong, wouldn't it make more sense to hide it, not advertise it in bright red across your face? Well, this is where a fascinating theory comes in, sometimes called the honest signal hypothesis. Researchers studying social behavior have found that blushing might actually work in your favor, not against you. When someone visibly blushes after a mistake, other people tend to judge them less harshly. Studies asking participants to rate blushing versus non-blushing individuals after identical embarrassing scenarios found that blushers were consistently rated as more likable, more trustworthy, and more forgivable than people who showed no visible reaction at all. Think about what that means evolutionarily. Early humans lived in small, tightly bonded social groups where reputation was survival. Get kicked out of the group and you lose access to food, protection, and mates. A visible, involuntary signal that says, I know I messed up, and I feel genuinely bad about it, might have actually been a powerful tool for social repair. A built-in apology that couldn't be faked, which is exactly why it worked. And that's the key detail. Because blushing is involuntary, it can't easily be faked, which makes it what researchers call an honest signal. Unlike a spoken apology, which anyone can say whether they mean it or not, a blush is nearly impossible to produce on command. Try it right now. Try to force yourself to blush through sheer willpower alone. You can't. That's precisely the point. Other people's brains seem to have evolved to trust signals that are hard to fake, and blushing fits that description perfectly. There's a psychological wrinkle here too, something researchers call the spotlight effect. Studies consistently show that people dramatically overestimate how much others notice their blushing and how negatively they judge it when they do notice. In one revealing study, participants predicted other people would judge their embarrassing moment far more harshly than those observers actually did. In other words, you almost certainly think your blush is more visible, more mortifying, and more judged than it actually is. Which means the moment you're panicking about right now might be barely registering with anyone else in the room at all. Some people blush far more intensely and more often than others. And researchers have connected this to a personality trait sometimes called blushing propensity, which appears linked to higher social anxiety and heightened sensitivity to how others perceive us. In extreme cases, some people develop a condition called erythrophobia, an intense fear of blushing itself, which, in a cruel biological irony, tends to trigger even more frequent and more severe blushing, since the anxiety about blushing activates the exact same adrenaline response that causes it in the first place. There's also a fascinating exception worth mentioning. Some researchers have found that people who are congenitally blind, meaning they've been blind since birth and have never seen another human face blush, still blush in socially embarrassing situations at rates similar to sighted people. This suggests blushing isn't something we learn by watching others do it. It appears to be hardwired, an automatic reflex baked directly into human biology rather than a social behavior we pick up through observation. So the next time your face goes hot and red after tripping in public or getting caught in an awkward mistake, remember what's actually happening. You're not malfunctioning, and you're definitely not weak. You're running a finely tuned social signal that our species evolved specifically because it works. A built-in, unfakeable apology written directly into your blood vessels. Evolved over hundreds of thousands of years to keep you connected to the people around you, even in your most mortifying moments. And here's the genuinely reassuring part. The people around you almost certainly aren't judging you nearly as harshly as you think they are. In fact, according to the research, that red face might be quietly working in your favor right now, whether you realize it or not. So, what's the most embarrassing thing that's ever made you blush? Tell me in the comments. I promise I won't judge. And subscribe, because next time we're asking a much bigger question. How did ancient humans cross oceans they couldn't even see across? See you then.